My name is Sara Kutchesfahani. I am the director of programs at the Plowshares Fund. Plowshares Fund is probably the only philanthropic organization that gives out grants exclusively to stop the spread of nuclear weapons. There are obviously other foundations that have nuclear security portfolios, but Plowshares Fund is the only one that, is solely devoted to nuclear issues. So I'm the director of programs at Plowshares, and essentially that means I have a team. There's four of us in total, and we are responsible for distributing up to about $4.4 million worth of grants every year. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less, but my job is grant making. I've been working a lot in nuclear non-proliferation policy, and so basically nuclear non-proliferation writ large at the global scale. And also the area that I focused on in my PhD was this theoretical framework called epistemic communities, which are essentially communities of kind of like knowledgeable experts. So I'm very proficient in that kind of the understanding of these communities, as well as, like I said, nuclear non-proliferation policy writ large at the global scale. I kind of just fell into it, right? As in, I didn't know that this was a career path. I didn't know that this was an area that people could actually kind of devote their careers to. And so my career path is kind of like, it's long, it's windy, in the sense that I have worked in a think tank. I've worked at a national nuclear weapons laboratory. I've worked in academia. I've worked in think tanks, NGOs, and I used to work at a funders collaborative, and now I work in philanthropy. And I've been lucky enough in that I've worked all over the world and all over I'm from London, born and raised, but I've been living in America for it's about 13 years now, actually. And so I've been very fortunate and privileged to work in this space in different kind of silos, if you will, across the United States and also across the world. And the one thing I'll say to kind of like summarize it all, so I've pretty much done everything that's possible in the nuclear space, with the exception of working in government and also working in an international organization. But kind of everything else that you can think of, I've kind of done. I think the approach is just to get people aware of the issue, because as you know, this is an issue area that so few people are connected with, so few people are aware of. And so if I get a room full of students, whether it's like 15, whether it's 40, I'm so excited, because that's 15 or 40 more than any other kind of opportunity. And my approach is really to just, introduce the students to this issue and kind of, make them aware of the fact that this is very much an existential threat to humanity. And if we care about the planet, if we care about our survival, if we care about future generations, then this is an area that we cannot just neglect, we cannot abandon, but more importantly, try to show the students that, each one of us has a nuclear story. We are all somehow connected to the nuclear story, but it is the job of us, whether it's academics, whether it's policy professionals, diplomats, whoever works on the issue, it is up to us to kind of show what that nuclear story is, to kind of show that personal connection. Because part of the issue with the nuclear weapons issue is it's very disconnected. People don't have that proximity. People don't feel that they're connected to it. And how could they? And so if we can show them that, look, if you care about the economy, if you care about the environment, if you care about social justice, pick whatever issue area you might be interested in, we can find a connection to nuclear issues, because that connection, that it's such an intersectional issue. So that is how I kind of approach the topic, that if you care, this is an area that, that there is a way for us to find your personal nuclear story. I think it's such an important question. Yes, obviously it's an existential threat. Yes, it intersects with issues that, like I said, people care about. But I think the main thing is, so much money is being spent on kind of maintaining the security, the kind of the safety security of these nuclear weapons. And, so imagine that money being allocated to, like I said, public health, to the environment. The money that's being spent on ensuring the safety, security, reliability of nuclear weapons could eradicate student debt overnight. One issue that really kind of concerns me is and I think the war in Ukraine has really kind of highlighted this, is our reliance on this outdated concept of nuclear deterrence. Nuclear deterrence was a strategy that was kind of implemented at the height of the atomic age. It may have served its purpose during the Cold War, but we don't live in that world anymore. We don't live, but we have this kind of Cold War relic, this Cold War kind of like architecture, this notion of nuclear deterrence that, every single nuclear state that we have, when they talk about why they maintain their weapons program, it's all because of nuclear deterrence. And so this is an issue that, I'm really kind of concerned about, because one of the things I like to think about is what might a viable alternative to nuclear deterrence look like? And I think that is an issue that we should be spending more time thinking about. That is an issue that, deserves a lot of attention. Like, we can't just assume, we can't just kind of continue this nuclear deterrence. What might that viable alternative to nuclear deterrence look like? Other issue that I'm also really concerned about is this lack of awareness. And I don't just talk about it from the public perspective. Again, I live in the United States. There are 535 elected members of Congress, 435 in the House, 100 in the Senate. And if you can find, maybe I'm being generous here, if you can find 10 people, 10 members of Congress, elected members of Congress aware of this issue, you're kind of lucky. That's really concerning. How can we spend so much money on these weapons and have, our decision-making bodies, not just in the United States, let me be clear, in countries that have nuclear weapons, how can we be okay with the fact that the people that we democratically elect, they're not very aware of this issue? How does that make us feel safe? How does that make us feel secure? So this lack of overall awareness, like I said, whether it's at the public level, whether it's at the, institutional level, whether it's at the elite decision-making level, this is also deeply concerning.